Welcome to Rooted Within with Lili and Dan, a podcast that shines a spotlight on positive change makers sharing their stories of legacy, inspiration, and impact.
Dan.
Hi, we have another exciting episode coming up.
It's going to be a very exciting episode. How ethical are you?
I actually think I'm very ethical. Like, I genuinely do believe that. Yeah, sometimes I think it gets tested.
Well, let's find out.
We have an amazing guest in the studio today who has driven all the way from Abu Dhabi, got stuck in traffic. Rex, welcome to the
Thank
studio.
you very much. Very glad to be here. By the way, lovely studio.
It's
Really
an amazing studio. It's very cozy.
I'm actually very surprised.
It's our little zen place.
It is, yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know you got stuck in traffic and you're rushing to get here, so we do appreciate the time.
No, don't be silly. It's fine.
It's fine. I think we're all used to traffic driving between Abu Dhabi and Dubai on a regular basis. But welcome. We're very excited to have you here.
Much.
Yeah, we're always keen to know a little bit more about our guests. So I guess, tell us a little bit about Rex. Who is Rex?
Obviously, I'm Russian. I'm just kidding. I'm Filipino.
We can tell by the accent.
Yeah, and I came here 15 years ago, but something interesting about my life is I was a monastic, meaning to say I was a monk before coming over.
Hang on, wait, so you were a monk?
Yeah, I entered the monastery when I was 25.
Well, hang on a minute.
And then 15 years ago...
That completely throw me a second.
I just love how our guests throw these little massive truth bombs and just walk straight past.
So if you're from the Philippines, Catholic? Are you Catholic? Okay.
People would usually have this impression that it's a Buddhist, because it's always
it's a very
what they have in
Catholic
mind.
country.
But no, it's we have monasticism among Catholics.
So you were a monk. Hang on. So how does one become a monk? Like, it's not something you wake up and be like, I want to be a monk. That's my career path.
Well, in my case,
is
I
it not
woke
a calling?
up one. Yeah, it's a calling.
Got you.
And you have to be frozen to be there. Just kidding. No, my point there is I woke up one day that I became very religious. When I say religious in practice, like I would go to the church very early in the morning, etc. And then the priest saw me, and then they mentioned
But
that.
what made you become religious?
I don't know. To be honest about it, I have no idea.
Just something happened.
Probably because there was something. Okay, let's go back. Okay.
Yeah.
I came from a very poor family. Not very poor, not dirt poor, but poor family. Okay,
Yeah.
And in the Philippines, you have a province. It's basically divided into 3 islands: Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao.
Yeah.
Manila is in Luzon. Okay, but
Yeah.
I was in the Visayas. So I grew up. I graduated 19. My mom died when I was 6.
Okay.
19, I decided that hey, I want to help my family. Okay, and being poor, I was at that time the only one who graduated in college. We're 5. Okay, so I went to Manila with little money, okay, and I was hoping that I'd get a job, okay, and so my money would at that time my estimation would last me around 6 months, and again I said I probably would get a job. I couldn't, okay, and the reason for that is my accent was different. I was very provincial. The way I was dressing up, etc. The way I'm talking right now is not the same as I was talking before, okay, completely different. 6 months, okay, no money. For some reason, probably because I was so young, I didn't plan of going back to my province, okay? I don't know why, okay? So I went to Luneta. Luneta is a park in Manila. And that was the beginning of the first, I would consider it the first sunset of the many sunsets of my life.
Okay.
For 5 years, I became homeless in Manila, okay? Homeless, meaning to say that I was taking showers in the gym, I was sleeping in the streets, I became street smart, and I was basically sleeping in the streets of Mendiola, Paco. For the Filipinos who are listening, you're going to be very familiar with these streets, okay? And
they're all streets within Manila. Sorry, that's where you were homeless. You were living in Manila at the time. You were homeless on the streets of Manila.
Yeah, the streets of Manila.
Wow.
And I think the very first brush of danger that I encountered was the first day when I got out of the bunk bed that I was renting because I didn't have money anymore. So I went to the park, and if I remember this correctly, there were around 5 guys approached me, and in my mind I was thinking, oh my God, 5, I have friends, suddenly because they approached me, and I thought that they were befriending me. So one guy gave me Pepsi in plastic, when you're poor.
Yeah.
You're basically in plastic. Okay, so I thought that, hey, this is the beginning of friendship, etc. with the others.
Oh, God.
And then I drank it. I slept. I woke up the following morning with no bag, nothing, no money.
They drugged you and robbed you?
Yes, and apparently I got drugged.
Wow.
Okay, so that made me fall asleep.
Yeah.
So that was the first brush with. For some reason, I realized I realized that people could actually just be too cruel, to be honest about it. Because after that, probably after a week, I was eating rice in a plastic with the 5 pesos in my pocket, which probably the guys didn't notice. So I was eating rice again in a plastic, and I was walking. Somebody just kicked me. Okay? These are memories that are very vivid to me, to be
Wow.
honest.
Yeah.
Kicked me and then just ran away. And I thought, why did he even do
Why?
that to me?
Yeah.
Those are the questions. And I realized that people could actually just be cruel for no reason.
Yeah. Which must be very challenging for yourself if you come from a place of not understanding why people can be cruel, like you're not cruel yourself.
Yes, especially if you're young, you know, and you
Yeah.
don't really have a better understanding of how the world operates.
And it leaves the mark.
Especially coming from the province. But that started it. So many things happened that I don't even want to share it precisely because I decided on certain situations and many
Yeah.
things that for the reason that I wanted to survive.
Yeah.
Okay, that was it for 5 years. But on the fifth year, okay, there was a friend of mine who saw me and said that, "What are you doing here?" Because I remember I decided to knock on my friends. It's basically a salon, a small salon in the Philippines, and I said that in exchange of food, etc., then I could take care of washing, what
Yeah.
you use for haircut, etc. Since then, they said okay, but then probably just around several months, okay, and he asked me to leave precisely because I wasn't contributing to the financial aspect because I didn't know how to cut hair.
Got you.
So when I was going out, then a friend saw me and said, "We'll introduce you to a family. Okay, just say that you know how to speak the English language well. Okay, because I will introduce you as a tutor. Okay, to the 3 children." I got introduced. I was so tired that the mother saw me sleeping in the veranda at that house
Yeah.
and say, "Hey." Anyway, cut the long story short, the family was very, very nice. They adopted me in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Gave me allowance, in exchange of teaching the 3 children. And then that was the time that I got very religious. So if I have to go back to your
Okay.
question earlier, probably all these things, when you're, I don't know, for some reason, when you have nothing, the tendency, 2 things. It's either you have so many things that if God wants
grateful.
to test you, God
Yeah.
will give you everything.
Yeah.
Or if God want to test you, then he will give you nothing,
Yeah. Or maybe even take it away.
probably.
Yeah.
So that was the time that, for some reason, again, I became very religious. The priest saw me and said, "You're always here every morning." Okay. So every morning. Then he started talking to me, and then we had this kind of spiritual conversation every morning after the Mass. And then he said, I think you have a vocation to become a monk. So he decided to communicate with the monks on top of a mountain in Mindanao, which is an island far from Manila. And then the monk said, the abbot, the superior said that, I'm still too young, okay? I was probably around 25, 24 at
Okay.
that time. And, but I persisted, okay? I wrote to them and saying that I just want to see the life.
Yeah.
I went there for 6 months. They observed me, observed their lives, and eventually, before going back, I applied to become a monk, and then they accepted me, and then that's it. But I lasted there for only 5 years. We would wake up at around 2 o'clock in the morning, always, every day, because the very idea of that in Latin, it's known as matins. Okay, the very idea is that you pray while the world was asleep.
Okay.
Okay, so we would wake up at 1:30 because I have to, you have to prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Always every morning. The thing is, you don't get used to it because biologically,
It's not normal.
Yeah,
Like
it's
you
not
should be
normal.
asleep.
That's
Yeah.
why it's a sacrifice, but always every day. And then I started for some reason because we were on top of a hill. I started teaching the sons and daughters of the farmers every afternoon. So there would be a window, okay, and then I would go down and I would teach. And the abbot, the superior, said, I don't think you're for here. You have a
But
vocation
what
to
did
become
you-
a teacher.
But what did you learn in the time that you were a monk?
That everyone, every day, everything passes away. Everything is transitory. And that there's no use to be bitter. There's no use to to be ungrateful,
Resentful.
to be resentful,
Yeah.
to be very negative. That's the reason why I've never regretted my experiences. In fact, those experiences, even the times that I really had nothing, so many betrayals and so many decisions that I would like to think, reflecting on them right now, are unethical or immoral.
Yeah.
In order for me to survive, still I did not regret them.
Wow. What did you teach the people of the village, or the people, sorry, down the hill?
ABCs, the basics,
Okay.
because these are children.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was thinking at that time that probably they didn't have money. Okay, probably if there will be opportunities, then they'd be, at least they have the basics, basic understanding.
And going back to your experience with the family that essentially adopted you and you were teaching their children, was teaching something that you were naturally good at and wanted to do?
Yes, but I didn't know it at that time. I was just teaching in order for me to survive.
Yeah.
It's a means to an end.
Precisely. But now, generally changed. Because for
So-
me, yes.
So sorry to cut you
No
off.
problem.
So if teaching didn't feel like a calling to you, what made you want to start teaching the kids? Like, what drew you to do that?
Yeah.
If you ask me that the question, I can't answer that. It's just that
Yeah.
I'm drawn to certain things that I don't even know how to explain. And I allow myself to be attracted to
You
it,
follow
to
your
go
intuition.
the flow,
Yeah.
to follow that flow, precisely because I realized now that I'm 53 now, becoming 54 in November. I've realized that if you follow the beatings of your heart,
It'll
the
always
better
take you
you
to the
become.
right place.
Yeah. And what was the moment that you left the monastery? Like, what was that catalyst? Because he said to you, you might have a different vocation.
All my adult life, I've been a monastic. So, for example, 5 years I was on top of the mountain, being a monastery, because it's a contemplative monastery. We're not allowed to be seen, by other people. That's let's say contemplative monastery is. We're not allowed to be seen. We have a grand silence. We cannot talk,
For
unless
5 years.
yes, unless
Wow.
few windows, few.
God, we wouldn't last.
No.
But I love it. To be honest, I love it.
What was it that you loved
It's like a
about it?
foundation of my being.
I was going to say, what did you love about it? You just said foundation of a being. What does that mean?
Okay. The routine, the schedule is we wake up at 2:00, known as Matins. We pray. It's chanted in Latin, and these songs are basically lifted from the Psalms of the
Yeah.
Bible, So we chant, and then after that we have meditation for 45 minutes. Very early in the morning, and then we have lauds, which again chanted songs, and then after that is the mass, and then we have another prayer, and then we study monasticism, the history of monasticism, anything about the monastics, and after that we eat breakfast, and I'm in charge of preparing, for example, the breakfast. You get assigned. And then after that, I go to the farm because we need to be independent from the other monasteries. We need to be sustainable. So we have a coffee farm. That is why I love coffee. I know Arabica from Robusta. I know the correct, the mix of both. It's that. So that's what I did. And then at around 11 o'clock, I go back to the monastery, the refectory, we call it, where we eat, prepare again. And then after that, we have rest until 2 o'clock. We go back to the farm, and then we study again. Studies about the Bible, there are many
Every
others. Every day. That's
Same
every
thing.
day, except for Sunday.
And in this time, you don't get to speak to
Yes.
anyone in
No,
the
we don't.
outside
We don't.
world. Why
we can
is
only, because in the rush of words, many mistakes are committed.
Interesting.
And especially at night, we call it the grand silence. After dinner, absolutely you cannot speak.
There must
I
be
found
something
it-
very peaceful and tranquil about that, obviously.
True, but the world has this common impression that if you enter the monastery, you're a saint. It's not the truth. It's farthest from the truth. You're a person who's always at war with yourself.
I'm going to say, because often when you're put in a position of silence, yes, you're at war with yourself because you allow thoughts and thinking and stuff to happen.
True,
Yeah.
true. And at the same time, we're human beings. We're 17 in the monastery when I was there.
Okay.
17 adults, and it's like being in a place you always constantly see them. You don't even love them emotionally, just like your normal definition of love, and you get attracted precisely because we're all there. I mean, from different backgrounds and different values as well. But then you always to constantly struggle about being at peace with them
Yeah.
relationally. Okay. Again, because you're trying to become a monk, you're trying to become better version of yourself.
And do you also
Unlike in the
struggle-
outside world. Yes.
I was just saying, do you also struggle to be at peace with yourself?
Come again?
Do you also struggle to be at peace with yourself?
Yes, because
in
there
that
are many
moment?
things that even probably among yourselves, okay,
Ah.
there are certain things that you want to do but you can't.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that you've done that probably you regretted. I shouldn't have done this. Okay.
Wow.
Or probably there are certain dreams that you want to have or to gain, but you couldn't for some reason. So it's always like, what's the right thing to do? Is this something that I need to do? Okay. So it's always those questions. But we want to focus. How do we become better human beings?
Did you
Yeah.
find that 5 years taught you how to really control your thoughts?
No, that was struggle in the beginning. In fact, it was only when I left the monastery that I realized who I wanted to become.
Tell us a bit more about
I was
that.
going to say, what was that? What did you want to become? Sorry.
Okay, so what happened was they asked me to be in Manila because there is a monastery there that runs a university. Okay, this is the active monks,
Yeah.
and the abbot in the on the mountain told me that probably you're for here, not being with us. Okay, so it was at that time that they asked me, "Do you want to become a priest?" And I said no. Okay,
Why was it a hard no?
because I didn't feel it.
Okay.
Okay, just wanted to become a monk, but since my gift is one of teaching, then I'd better teach. So okay, they said, go and have your master's at De La Salle University, and also have your PhD there. So I pursued it.
So they they supported that. They covered that for
Yes,
you.
because we run schools or university. That's the reason why. Usually, you're supposed to be a priest first. Then, if you want to pursue your PhD or master's, then it's fine. But me, I didn't want to become a priest. But they realized that I'm gifted in terms of teaching,
Yeah.
etc. God gave me that gift. Okay, and I'm saying this, with being grateful to the gift given to me. So I pursued it, and then they were planning to they were training me to become the president of the university. I became at the last level the director for administrations, like the second in command. One day, okay, I looked at my monitor, then I said my computer, and then I said, I wanna go somewhere else. I've been a monastic all my adult life. I wanna see the world. Okay, so I said, where I wanna go, and then I switched on the computer, Dubai. That was the first time. That was the first thing. Okay.
And have you
that
ever
popped.
heard of Dubai by that point? You'd
Well,
have
because
seen
there was
Dubai
a movie in the Philippines at that time about Dubai.
Okay.
So this was around 15 or 16 years ago. And so I said, I went to the university that's Western because that's my training. Okay. So I Googled and came American College of Dubai. Okay. Closed now. Okay. But that was it. And then I submitted my CV online. Around 3 to 4 days, I get a call. Okay, well, email first, and then asking for an interview. I get a call from the dean, and then I was already trained at that time, so I improved myself a lot. And then what happened was saying that, okay, the president will interview you the following day, be available. The president interviewed the following day, and they said, how soon can you come? We need you in summer, okay? And summer means, I think that was in April, summer in the Philippines, okay? So that was like around 3 weeks. And then I said, no, I need to ask permission from from the monastery. I asked the permission from the monastery. He said, no, because you're already a solemnly professed monk. Like I've been in the monastery for so long that I
Yeah.
already vowed, like I did that. They gave me a ring, it's
Okay.
all this ceremony. And we have a vow of stability that the moment you enter that monastery, you will die there. That is why we have a cemetery in the monastery.
Got you.
So-
a lifelong commitment.
Yeah, it's a lifelong commitment. That is true.
Wow.
But I rebelled. Okay, so I said no. I really need to go back for some reason. Okay, I need to get out of the monastery. And the abbot, the superior said, I'm giving you 1 year. Okay, see the world, but you need to come back. Okay, because your papers, everything, they're in Rome. If you don't want to come back, then you need to write a letter of. I forget the term, the monastic term, but it's like disavowing.
Yeah.
Okay, your vows. Okay, and
Why do you think he let you go?
because
If it's not done, like
Yeah.
once you're in, that's it.
because I didn't want to be there anymore.
But what about other people? There must have been other monks who felt that way, or Are you like the only monk that's ever wanted to leave?
There are others as well. There are others. But mine was a special case because I was a solemnly professed monk. But I think the way we operate in the monastery is, it's it's your freedom.
Yeah.
In the end, they will try to encourage you, etc. But in the end,
they
it's-
can't keep you.
can't keep
Yeah,
you.
it's choice.
Sure, it's a choice.
Yeah.
And then I came. That was basically it. So the
Then
So,
you-
first
so
then
much,
you-
so much for a year.
Yeah, then you're riding to Dubai and you've been here, 15 plus years later?
Yeah, and that was the time that I realized that I need to become a better teacher, because the thing is, I'm a Filipino, and it's not the teaching or being in education is not the industry for Filipinos. We're basically known as nannies, yayas. We
Service
are in
industry.
the service industry,
Yeah.
waiters, etc. stuff. Okay, so very rare to be able to see a Filipino teacher, or professor
Mhm.
for that matter, more so. And the first time I was looking at the door, first day, I said, "Oh my God, these are very tall young ones, and these are, they probably speak better than the way I speak, etc." So all these insecurities. But then I also realized that I needed to survive. I didn't know that I didn't know about taxes. I didn't know about that I need to pay bills, because at the monastery,
Everything's covered.
and we have no money. Like,
Yeah.
we're not salaried.
Yeah.
So I didn't know all of these nitty-gritties about the outside world. But then I realized when I came. And then, but I was so focused, okay? The gift that was given to me by God was teaching. It's like a seed, okay? It will not grow by itself. I need to make it grow. So anything that's related to teaching, like the way, how you speak, the way you use your hands. If you notice, I'm usually very expressive with my
Yeah.
hands. But the thing is, this is something that is not natural. I studied it precisely because I realized that students are more engaged when you use your hands.
Yeah.
So I looked into, I YouTube many other things, because I want to see how the best speakers talk and basically, actuate on stage.
Yeah.
So I also enhanced my PowerPoint presentations to make sure that, my students are engaged. So anything related to teaching, I enhanced.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was just the focus, to become a better teacher. And then I think on the very first graduation, and this really changed my life, the very first graduation, and I knew that what I was doing was correct, because the cum laude, during his address, during graduation, he stopped his speech. I was at the other side. I was busy remembering what's the sound or the music after his speech, because I was assigned, to the logistics. And then suddenly, people were clapping, parents were clapping, and I heard the student, okay, talking about how Dr. X me, how I changed not just his life, but the lives of many students.
Oh, wow.
So all of the students, okay, the graduating students, basically just stood up, okay, and started clapping. And I was like, what happened? But I knew at that time that they were basically for students, but that changed my life.
Is it because you were not expecting that?
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect
How
that.
did it
I
make you
was-
feel?
Well, I was grateful. Grateful that God has given me that skill and that talent, and grateful of the fact that I responded to it, to that talent. So basically,
You must have also been really touched by the kids.
very much,
Yeah.
very. And I was so shy about it, because even the parents. I think it's basically here in my phone, the video. I treasured it precisely
Yeah.
because that was the first time. And then newspapers, college time, golf news, TV station, suddenly, all these interviews. And then I realized that I could capitalize on it. So that was the beginning. So now, as a segue to this teaching, I've been asked to speak, to talk about usually inspirational ones,
Yeah.
etc. So that was the beginning of it. And then I realized also that I'm alone. Since I'm alone, as a Filipino, I need to be employable.
Yeah.
That's the practical side of
Of
it.
course.
I don't want that I will die looking for jobs. I want jobs to be looking for me. That was the shift, financially speaking.
And you teach in ethics, correct? Yeah.
Not just ethics, though.
But there's so much more. Yeah, sorry. I know that's
Yeah,
just
now
one topic.
I'm teaching ethics, yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I'm teaching also, you're correct, organizational behavior.
Why did you choose ethics, if that's the right word to use? Like, how did you fall into
Or did
to teaching
ethics
people?
choose you?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great question.
So that's what I was thinking. Because you talked about stuff previously, it's like you talked about your experiences, like, on the streets of Manila and how people weren't really ethical then, they drugged you, they robbed you. You've had experiences in life where you've encountered unethical behavior. So what was the reason why you ended up teaching ethics? How?
I think probably because for the longest time, even until now, I just want to be a better person. It's always in my mind, okay? And when I say to become a better person in relation to my career as a teacher, and I realized that to become a better person, there are certain principles and frameworks in ethics that you need to follow.
Yeah.
That you become, that becomes they become your moral compass for that matter. There are certain guidelines that you need to be anchored on, okay?
But what university courses have ethics as a module?
Currently,
Yeah.
I'm teaching at Zayed Military University, okay? And basically part of their, aside from about war strategies, etc., about military, it's basically, the reason why they asked me to teach ethics is precisely because for them, it's a very important foundation in leadership. That they understand that their actions or decisions that they need to make are going to be ethical. So
they have
you are
consequence.
correct. True.
Yeah.
They have consequences.
Yeah.
Not just for themselves, but for the
wider
people that they
public.
love, or
Yeah.
probably the wider audience, for that matter. So they put that in their curriculum. Okay, and also in many Western universities, usually ethics in universities
Well, like
are there.
in the organizational, there would have been ethics, no?
Yeah, the fact that you have, for example, you have the manuals,
Yeah.
you have sections for ethics there,
Yeah.
what you can and you cannot do in your
Yeah.
organization, etc.
Fundamentally, can you teach people to be ethical, or like you said, is it a foundation? Is it something that you inherently
people
have
need
to
be
have?
taught how to be ethical, because if not, if they only depend on themselves, that saying that, hey, this is how I feel, okay,
Yeah.
and therefore it must be right. Usually I say no, okay. The thing here is ethics usually come either from culture, from your religious belief, okay, and from experiences. But whatever it is that you feel should be guided by all these structures,
Yeah.
because you cannot decide by and for yourself alone.
Because I guess you're influenced by behaviors of the people around you, of the past, of circumstance, of so many different things.
True.
But is there a set of universally agreed ethics? Because like we said,
Yeah.
different cultures are in different ways. What would be deemed, ethical? Asking the question, because with respect or with behavior, some things are considered rude in some culture and not in others.
Yeah.
Does that work with ethics?
That is known as cultural relativism.
Right.
What is right for one culture is not
Yeah.
necessarily right for another culture.
Okay.
But I always say this to my students: wherever you are, for example, if you're Chinese or Filipino or Syrian, whatever nationality, but you are in Dubai, you need to be conscientious
Dubai.
and follow the rules and regulation of Dubai. Because that is,
That's your
what is known as
host.
cultural ethics.
Yeah.
But is there a universal set of ethics? Like, is there like a 10 commandments of ethics?
Yes. Okay. There is what we call currently, past, present, and probably in the future. There are three frameworks in ethics: cultural relativism, the one that we were just talking about, and the other one is Kantian ethics by Immanuel Kant. Okay, Immanuel Kant was born in Königsberg, Prussia. Okay, he's a German, and he came up with a universal ethics. Okay, even until now, there's still a debate. Okay, what do you mean by universal ethics? It means you're familiar with the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would like others
Yes.
do
Yeah.
unto you.
Yeah.
This is an example of that universal ethics.
Yeah.
That there are certain things that are universal, certain beliefs that are universal, and they do not depend on culture or personal preferences. Virtues, for example.
Yeah.
Virtues are basically universal ethics, like kindness is universal. See, love is universal. Okay, and they don't necessarily depend on the interpretation of culture.
Yeah.
So
But
that is-
I'm going to say,
But
but
they
people
still
must
have different meanings for them, though.
I was just saying, different people have different interpretations of love and kindness, and
Yeah, but the thing is,
you got that whole, there's that other, be cruel to be kind.
that is
Yeah.
why it is always necessary to study,
yeah,
to research. For example, you were saying that the different interpretations of love, but we all know not we, okay, and I have to be very careful with this. There are different impressions of love. Okay, and usual this impression of love, for example, attraction. You know, wherein some people actually just see someone, a man or a woman, and say, he or she is the one.
Yeah.
But that is just attraction.
It's not love.
And no, it's not
That's
love.
that's like
Yeah.
chemistry,
It's
that's
basically
lust. That's lust.
that is sexual love,
Yeah.
another impression of love. And people think that if that person is not capable of having sex with me, then kalas, no more.
Yeah,
But that
they
is not
don't love
love.
you.
That's
Yeah.
sexual love, okay? And it is anchored. The foundation of that is just basically attraction.
It's physical.
It's physical.
Yeah.
Okay? Men are basically physical. We've always defined in philosophy love as loving the person for he or who she is, including that person's limitations and shortcomings.
Oh wow.
True.
Okay,
Yeah.
including. That is the reason why when a student asks me, Doctor, there's this woman, for example, okay, that I love very, very much, and we're about to get married. What do you think? Is she the one, for example? Okay, and I've heard this many times, and I would always say, look, okay, if you're able to tolerate your partner's, for example, if your partner snores at night very, very loud, okay, loudly, are you able to tolerate it? Ask yourself that question. The way the person that you love, for example, the way he or she handles the spoon or fork, or probably certain things, the quirks, okay?
Yeah.
If you're able to decide for yourself that you'll be able to tolerate them, then that is love.
Oh wow.
Better known as unconditional love.
Yeah.
It is unconditional. That is the very definition of love. It is very romantic when you say it, but it's very hard in
It's
practice.
bloody hard.
No, but it's true because like by nature and default, like, we get irritated by each other. Generally, like there's certain things that people do that can start to really frustrate, let's say, especially in relationships, especially over a period of time as well. But it's very interesting, like you said, it's that unconditional, like, can I tolerate you? Can I
Like
can
I used
deal
to
with
always
you?
say, I love you for who you are, not what you do.
Yeah. But it's really interesting then because you go into the world, we're going to go into a rabbit hole right now, but then, go into relationships and people want to try to change the other person. It's like, well, that's impossible.
Yeah, because
that's not love.
People get attracted to the ideal,
Yeah.
to the ideal person based on his conception of what is ideal. And that becomes disastrous in the end. Because a person, a human being, will always, always disappoint that ideal.
Well, we're flawed.
Of course, because it's not real.
Yeah, precisely. But many people don't realize that they're not real.
Yes.
Or they have a hard time accepting that it isn't real.
Yeah.
So what
Some
was the
questions.
third pillar?
The virtue of Aristotelian ethics, basically virtues. According to Aristotle, you know that what you're doing is ethical if it is in moderation. I'll give an
Okay.
example, okay? Eating, okay? Anything that's too much and too little is unethical.
Yeah.
Okay, for example, if you eat too much, you become unproductive. You become sickly, etc. If you also eat little, then you also become sickly. You also become unproductive. You become lazy, for that matter, as well, right? So the technique to that is basically to be in moderation. You can eat everything, but in moderation.
And that's the kind of principle across life.
Yes, in
Essentially.
order to have a productive life, a
Yeah.
better life, according to Aristotle. That's the third principle. It is actually applicable to everything except for very few ones. Another one is sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, if you sleep too much, then you also don't become productive. If you sleep too little, you become so heady,
Foggy.
etc. That's true, foggy,
Yeah.
etc. So you have to sleep in moderation.
Did you ever have anyone that you struggled to teach ethics to?
Ooh, that's a very good question.
Like, are you students or what?
Yeah, or
let's
anybody
do-
in
but,
life, anyone
just
you've come
even in
across, I
life,
think.
But like as a
Usually the
teacher.
traditionalists. When
Yeah.
I say traditionalists, these are people who and usually, and let me just say this straightforwardly based on my experience, people who are very, very absolutely religious.
Yeah.
You would think that they'd be the most ethical, no?
The if you look into the history of humankind, the abuses made and the wars
Under the name of
made
religion.
under the name of religion.
Very true. Even to this day.
But that's the irony, right? Because you
Yeah.
would think religion would be ethical
Yeah, but only
in the purest form of what it stands
Sure,
for.
sure. But only because religion can be manipulated.
Yeah. And
Because
heavily
it's faith.
influenced.
Yeah, heavily influenced, manipulated, interpreted differently than what it should.
I think it's the
is.
interpretation often.
True.
You know.
But I've always believed that regardless of your religion, that is the reason why when I asked about this, how do you, as a Filipino with a different belief, how do you teach ethics? Okay, in Arab, the context basically you have Arab students, and I said because I realized going old that at the very heart of all religion is love.
Yeah.
And if you know the definition of love, the practice of love, then it's something that's universal, wherein everyone is able to relate. The only reason why there are different interpretations of love is precisely because it's very dangerous when you only know little
Yeah.
and without really digging into it, and you think that what you say and the knowledge that you get by that very shallow research or study is the truth, when in fact it isn't.
So do you think ethics is black and white,
No.
right and wrong?
I always say this, it's conversational, it's not absolute. Because
So it's gray.
yeah, and that true. But there's only one thing that I believe to be absolute when we talk about virtues, kindness, love, etc. that I mentioned. These are the ones that are absolutes. But all the others, generally, these are all cultural.
Yeah.
For example, Herodotus, the very first Greek historian, and I always remember this story because something to do with relativity of ethics. Among the Greeks at the time, what happened was, they buried the dead.
Yeah.
But he traveled because he was a well-traveled man, and then he realized that there was a tribe who liked him, and at night they were gathering, and then he realized that was being served was basically the brain of the person, of a hero, their
awesome.
hero. Okay?
Oy.
So he told that story when he went back, and his community was saying, that's taboo, that you can do that, etc. That's immoral, that's unethical. But the point here is, the reasoning of the tribe was that they admire so much that person who died, that hero, that they want the legacy, and that was their belief, to be passed on, and the only way to do that is to eat the brains of that person, and they considered it to be right.
But see, there you go. I'm still questioning whether you can have a standard universal ethics, even with a base of love. Because that's an example of how love was shown in two very different ways, and it was at the base of it was love.
But surely at the core of humanity, there is something
You would think.
that anchors all of us
you
together,
would think.
despite different culture, different perspectives, different upbringing, that there is
you
something
would
somewhere that
think.
unites us all.
But you would think. But the more I live, the more I'm like,
Ooh.
It's a very interesting question.
I always say this, understanding, tolerance.
I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? It's tolerance and understanding,
And
perspective.
for me, that's going to be more universal, because the thing here is, I do not know your practices. I do not know the reasoning behind why you do what you do, okay? But you believe in it. As long as it does not kill other people, does not hurt people, then I can tolerate it.
Yeah.
Because again, I have to go back to the primacy of life. Life.
Yeah. That's absolute. That's the top of the hierarchy.
Because whether you like it or not, there is a theory that, if there are no people, there will be no ethics, which gives you an idea that ethics is a human construct.
100%.
And since it's a human construct, let me relate that we value life so much, so the priority should be life.
Yeah.
Preserve life more than anything else.
We want to live.
True.
Except
You
that,
just blow my brain
but then
away.
there's a flip side to that as well. That because life is the ultimate, it has also caused us to behave in ways that are not ethical.
Yes. Because we might prioritize our life over the life of someone
Well, look at-
else, for example.
True. True.
Yeah. Well, that was
And
just,
that is-
let's go very deep. I think, with
That is
one.
that is why your belief is necessary.
Yeah.
But
Because
I'm fascinated by this because this is what I mean. So you can talk about it,
Yeah.
but then when you dig a little bit deeper, you're like, oh, hold on a minute, that's not absolute.
Very complex.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's fascinating.
that is why heroes, saints are different from us, precisely because while they value life, it's always the life of others more
Others
than
over
their own
themselves.
lives. See?
Ooh.
And I think that is where the greater love is.
Yeah. In the doing things for others,
Yes.
the giving.
And being able to sacrifice yourself for the benefit of the
Without
others.
ego.
That is
Yeah.
true.
without ego.
That is true.
Because when ego comes into that, it's a whole bunch of
And that is
other
not
mess
love
as
anymore.
well.
That is selfishness.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you see it. I've seen it,
Sure.
sadly, with a lot of people using the whole umbrella of saying they're of service or charity
Yeah.
to feed their own egos, and the behavior is actually not very cool.
And that is why you have also to look at it from the utilitarian point of view. Whether is it really love to love yourself, preserve yourself than the others, or the real definition of love is in giving service or loving others more than yourself.
Yeah.
So if you look at it from the utilitarian point of view, our world would actually be better if you're able to sacrifice yourself for the benefit of the others
Yeah.
more than preserving your own self. So if you ask me, I would rather that you give service to others, as long as you can,
Yeah.
sacrificing yourself, because I've always believed that it's necessary to sacrifice what is good to attain the best.
Yeah. Interesting. Ooh. What's next for X? That sounded like it should be on a
That
t-shirt.
did.
What's next
What's
for
for
X?
X?
Well, there we go. I like that one. What is next?
I don't know, probably will die and
I mean,
That was very jolly.
Yeah, we're all going to get there eventually.
no. I'm a very realistic person. I'm idealistic in the sense that I believe in my belief. Okay,
Yeah.
and as in really believe in it. But as I was also a man of the streets, even until now, I would like to say. But the thing here is, I also realize that everything is transitory, to be honest
Yeah.
about it. And this is the reason why I keep on making sure that I enhance myself more, the gifts, in order to be able to serve the community better.
Yeah.
I always give talks every week for free. I've never asked for money, even from companies, educational institutions. I usually average in a week, both online and physical talks, probably around 3 or 4 in a week,
Wow.
usually.
And
These
that's
are-
you giving back.
Come again?
That's you giving back to people.
Yeah.
That's
That's you
you
paying it
sacrificing
forward.
yourself.
Yeah, because that's aligned to my strength.
Yeah.
That's the gift given to me. I'm very bad in numbers, in mathematics, to be honest about it, so I don't involve myself with that. But for the gift given to me, speaking, teaching, I have to make sure that they're all given. Because when I die, at least, if there is a God, okay, and God asks me, what have you done? I would just say that I've, despite of my shortcomings, of my sins of the past, okay, I finished the race. Okay, I've finished the race, and I would like to think I've finished it well. I have to say it boldly. I have to claim it.
Yeah. Wow.
Here's to claiming it.
Yes, for sure. Rex, it's been a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for coming by. We do appreciate, obviously, all the way from Abu Dhabi as well in rush hour traffic.
And apologies again.
No,
Never,
no.
never.
Here's-
I mean,
here's-
I guess we'd never even know. Let's put it that way.
Here's to a even more ethical world.
Yes, we need a more ethical world. Thank you for sharing that. It was honestly, it's
Thank you,
such a
thank you as
pleasurable
well.
conversation.
Pleasure
All
as
right.
well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Rooted Within with Lili and Dan, a podcast that shines a spotlight on positive change makers sharing their stories of legacy, inspiration, and impact.